Millionaire invites Black Maid's daughter to play chess as a joke. She didn't know her daughter was a child genius. Everyone at the charity dinner thought it would be a bit of theater, a small, cruel joke dressed up as entertainment. The host of the evening, Mr. William Harrow, was a tall man with a quiet laugh and a habit of looking down at people as if he were studying them like chess pieces. He had invited his friends to his polished dining room in his gated home to raise money for underfunded youth programs. The room smelled of roses and expensive cologne, and crystal glasses chimed like a small orchestra when people toasted to causes they rarely thought about again. Lina was not supposed to be part of that world. She came from a small apartment across town where lights often went out, and the library was more of a treasure chest than a place of silence. Her mother, Anna, had worked for Mr. Harrow for nearly 2 decades. She had polished his silver and smoothed his beds, and she had always kept her head low. That night, Anna moved quietly among the guests, carrying a tray, careful not to be noticed. Lina stood beside her, hands folded, wearing the only dress she owned that felt right for the occasion. Mr. Harrow saw Lina and smiled in a way that made the guests lean forward. He had heard that Anna's daughter liked puzzles and old books, and the idea of asking her to play chess in front of his friends made him feel, in his mind, magnanimous. He called Lina over with a wave that did not hide the amusement in his eyes. "Come, show us how they play in the neighborhood," he said, as if it were a harmless joke. The room laughed in that thin, polite way laughter sounds when people agree with the leader. Mr. Collins, who owned a string of hotels, whispered something about knights and L-shaped moves and pretended to be worried for Mr. Harrow's dinner guest. Lina barely blinked. She stepped forward because when your mother works in a house like this, you learn early that you don't refuse. She had learned chess by the glow of a library lamp and by rewatching recorded matches on a battered computer that sometimes froze. She had walked miles to borrow books and spent nights solving problems by the flicker of a single bulb. But tonight she did not know she would be under the spotlight. She only knew her mother's hand on her sleeve, and the look Anna gave her that mixed shame and pride in a way Lina understood without words. "Sit," Mr. Harrow said, settling into an armchair like a king choosing his throne. He arranged the Italian marble board with deliberate care, letting the value of every piece show. The guests murmured about the table and the craftsmanship, as if those facts mattered more than the people in the room. Lina sat across from him and felt the weight of every passing gaze. He opened with an easy move, a pawn pushed to the center, then explained loudly how he had learned that move at a club he never attended. Lina responded without hesitation. She answered with a Sicilian defense, a move that made Mr. Collins cough on his drink. A small hush settled. The move was not the clumsy reply he had expected from a girl invited to amuse the room. It was the answer of someone who had lived inside the game for years. The guests started to fidget. A few who had come to enjoy a spectacle now felt something else. Curiosity, then a shadow of doubt. Lina moved quickly, every gesture precise, as if she were following a script written in her head. Her fingers placed pieces with calm confidence. Mr. Harrow's smile tightened. He had planned a quick humiliation, a lesson in superiority to be told at brunch for weeks. He did not expect to meet skill. Anna watched from the edge of the room, clutching her tray so tightly her knuckles went white. She remembered Lina as a child bent over a torn chessbook, turned into treasure. She remembered the nights Lina stayed, up solving problems while the power was out, and the mornings Lina left before sunrise to study at the library. Anna had never told anyone about those hours. She had only worried and worked and kept faith that her daughter's stubborn love for learning would one day be seen. As the game unfolded, Mr. Harrow began to falter. He tried to laugh it off, to explain his errors as the result of trying something new, but Lina's moves threaded traps that had been practiced and memorized. She created a position that made the queen vulnerable, and the king exposed. The room grew quiet in a way that felt heavy and new. People who had once teased now found themselves leaning in, unable to look away. A man at the corner who had played chess in college decades ago swallowed and muttered, "He's no amateur." Another guest, Representative Elaine Porter, stopped fanning herself. She had not come to the dinner seeking a viral moment, but she noticed how the room's tone changed, how the small cruelty had shifted into something else. An unexpected lesson. Mr. Harrow tried to reclaim the moment with jokes, but his words fell flat. Lina's face did not show triumph. She played like someone intent on proving nothing but the truth, that talent does not respect social lines or clothing labels. She had no desire to humiliate, only to play as she always had, honestly and with focus. At one point, Lina stood crossed to where her mother watched and leaned close. "Mom," she said, voice steady, "remember when you told me one day I'd change what they see?" Anna nodded, tears bright in her eyes. Lina returned to the board and finished the game with a quiet, clean checkmate. The move was simple but brutal in its clarity. The guests could not hide their surprise. Mr. Harrow stared at the pieces as if they might rearrange themselves. After the game, the air in the room felt different. The laughter had gone. Small conversations turned into long, awkward pauses. Someone took out a phone and pointed it secretively at the scene, then another, then another. The idea of a video spreading had not been Mr. Harrow's plan, but the moment somehow carried itself further than any of them expected. Representative Porter pushed through the murmurs and stepped forward. She had seen the way Lina had handled herself, and she was moved. She asked Lina a few questions about school and where she studied and who had taught her. When Anna explained the long walks to the library and the nights of study, Porter listened in silence and then, in a voice steady, with purpose, she offered to help. She handed over a card and told Lina and Anna to call. "I know some programs," she said quietly. "I can help find scholarships." That night changed more than one life. In the weeks that followed, the story spread online. The clip of Lina playing at Mr. Harrow's dinner caught fire. Not because anyone planned it, but because people loved the idea of an underdog who stayed steady and true. Donations poured not only toward Lina's education, but toward the community programs that could sustain children like her. Anna was offered a promotion at a better hotel, a job with real benefits and respect. It was not charity, it was recognition, Mr. Prinny. Harrow felt the shift too, though it landed on him like cold water. Invitations that had come easily before became thin. The social circle that once applauded him now whispered about the night he had tried to put a child on display. He had to sit with the quiet and think about how small gestures build impressions. For the first time in a long while, he felt the sort of shame that asks for change. Lina moved forward in ways she had only dreamed of. She accepted a scholarship that covered a new school, and after a while, she walked the halls of a great university with the steady steps of someone who had earned her place. She started a small online program to teach chess and critical thinking to kids in neighborhoods like hers. It began with a handful of students and a borrowed webcam, but soon hundreds were logging on. Lina turned the patience and discipline she had learned into something that lifted others. People talked about the night in many ways. Some called it a story about lowly versus lofty, some about prejudice overcome. Lina refused to let the moment define her by anger. Even when asked about Mr. Harrow, she said she felt only a quiet sadness that someone had thought making fun would be entertainment. She wanted her story to teach something, that talent is everywhere, often hidden in places the privileged do not look. Years later, when people asked Lina what she remembered most about that night, she would say it was the way her mother looked at her. Not proud in the way of applause, but proud in the way of survival. It was the small steadiness of someone who had kept faith. She would also say she remembered something else, that when people expect you to be less, The best reply is to be more, kinder, smarter, and ready. That better life did not come without hard work. There were scholarship interviews and long runs to catch buses, classes that seemed impossibly hard at first. Lina learned to balance study and sleep and to take help when offered. Anna learned to accept a new job with a nervous joy, and together they began to make plans that did not depend on favors or the mercy of strangers. Mr. Harrow, who had once been the loudest voice in the room, found himself quieter in public but busier in private. He started to sponsor real programs, not for the applause but out of a sense of correction. He visited Lina's chess club once and watched children move pieces with concentration. He apologized in ways small but real, and though some would never forgive him, his change mattered more than his social calendar. It proved that people can learn from being shown the harm they cause. In the end, the story became less about the moment and more about what came after. A girl from a cramped apartment became a teacher of strategy and a voice for kids who loved to think. A mother who had kept her head low for years was finally seen and respected for the work she had always done. And a man who had meant a joke learned that every word can be a step toward harm or toward repair. Lina's online program grew, and she kept a picture of her mother's proud face on the wall of her small office. When reporters called, she spoke simply, "Chess taught me discipline. People taught me kindness. My story is not about knocking anyone down. It's about lifting each other up." People remember the dinner for many reasons. They remember the marble board and the hush that fell over crystal glasses. They remember how quickly a single evening could ripple out and change lives. But mostly they remember that talent can bloom in unexpected places and that small acts of respect change the world more than grand gestures of pity. If you ask Lina now, she will tell you that the best moves are not the ones that win games alone, but the ones that help others play better, too. Who knows how many hidden geniuses are around us, just waiting for a chance. Share this story if you believe talent can come from anywhere, and subscribe for more daily stories.